Madison Walsh is a newly graduated forensic scientist, and she's also Hedley Thomas's collaborator on his new investigative podcast, Bronwyn. But Maddie has another point of connection to this podcast. She's part of the family of Bronwyn Winfield, who's been missing now for 3 decades. Maddie, tell me, how did you get involved in this big adventure that you're exploring now with Hedley?
It was about a year ago, and my aunt was being interviewed by Hedley at her home not far from mine, and she said that Hedley was coming over to interview her and asked if I wanted to come and join because she knew of my forensics background and knew of my interest. And I went, I just sat there, and at certain points he asked for my input, and he discovered that I, at that point, was still studying forensic science, and he asked me if I wanted to help him out and work with him on the podcast, and I was quite shocked that he was asking me because I was 20, and I was like, "Not sure you would want me," but yeah, no, that's where it started, that's where it began, and it's been going really well ever since.
Yeah, what sort of stuff have you been doing with Hedley?
So in the beginning, it was a lot of collating and kind of going through all the information that was given to us by one of the family members that had all the documents from Bronwyn's coronial inquest and witness statements, and just reading all of them and taking down important notes, and then talking to Hedley about bits I thought were important. And yeah, it was just basically reading everything, hundreds and hundreds of pages, and really getting a good idea of what happened and why it's still unsolved 31 years later.
Yeah, tell me how you're related to Bronwyn Winfield and what had been your level of interest in her disappearance before this?
Yeah, so I'm Bronwyn's second cousin, and I heard about Bronwyn my entire life. Growing up, at every family event, there was always a mention of Bronwyn, and I heard about how loving and kind she was. I heard about how she was an amazing mother, and obviously heard about how she just disappeared and no one has seen her since. And our family was of the opinion from, well, as long as I know, that she was murdered and foul play was involved. So I've always had an interest because it's not every day you have a family member that has disappeared and is presumed murdered. So it always fascinated me, but I never really knew the details surrounding it because, it didn't go anywhere. It didn't go any further than the inquest in 2002. So I didn't know much about it, and, it did influence me to study forensic science because what I did know was that ultimately the first investigation was a terrible police investigation, and they didn't do forensics, they didn't create a crime scene, they didn't take it seriously until 5 years later. So I kind of was like, if I was on those front lines, if I, heard about a woman going missing, and if it was taken just a little bit more seriously, then maybe wouldn't be in this situation today.
Yeah, it's obviously been something you've enjoyed doing as an intellectual challenge, but it's taken a toll on your family. This is very intense material, not only dredging up the story of Bronwyn and family members' suspicions about what happened to her, but also the fractures within the family about issues like, for example, uh, the idea of a family curse. Talk to me about what that's been like being a member of this family and as the podcast has unfolded.
Yeah, well, it's been kind of like opening up old wounds, I think. I haven't really Before the podcast, I didn't really understand the depths of a lot of these, family issues and what Bronwyn's disappearance did. I mean, witnessing things like people's opinions, well, our family members' opinions being put out to the public and everyone being able to comment on those, whether they agree with them or don't. And then you have to understand that family members are going to take that, really personally, and it can cause a lot of tensions. And it's also a really, really tough subject because someone so close to them has gone missing, and you have to watching it unfold, you have to kind of keep in mind that this is the furthest we've ever gone with Bronwyn's case. This is the furthest the investigation has ever gone. So you, in a way, have to sacrifice a little bit of your personal information and let it out there so that people can feel something towards the case in a way, so they feel more connected to it, so they know the inner workings and they know what's happening in this moment while the podcast is unfolding, so they know that, you know, we're not always a joint family unit, and we all kind of have good days and bad days, and not everyone agrees with each other's opinions, and there's moments where family members aren't communicating because it's just too hard and it causes more arguments than it does good discussion. So it's tough. It is tough to kind of be in the middle of that, and things like the curse come up, and most family members think, oh, it's just tongue in cheek. It's just, you know, a funny thing that we like to bring up every now and then as a joke. But then other family members take it a bit more seriously and maybe do think, hang on, am I cursed? Is there a curse? But at the end of the day, it's all based on opinion. It's all based on how you feel, and everyone has a right to, you know, have their own opinions and feel how they want. And at the end of the day, not everyone's going to agree with you, and that's basically been the biggest lesson to learn.